Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us. My name is Ryan, and welcome to Central Park. I'm one of the guides here at the Central Park Conservancy, and we know that getting to Central Park is still pretty difficult for a lot of people, so we want to continue bringing the park to you through longer 45-minute long virtual tours that we'll hold on select Tuesdays and Thursdays, as well as our more casual 15-minute long weekly walks held every Wednesday at 12:30. Thank you for joining us today for a weekly walk of the Conservatory Water. We're going to be together for about 15 minutes long. Just about all of the photos you're going to see were taken by myself over the past week. We will see a select few other photos, which I'll credit when we get to them. As you may know, again, I'm a member of the Central Park Conservancy, and our goal here at the Central Park Conservancy is not only to keep Central Park looking clean and green, but to preserve and celebrate Central Park as a sanctuary from the pace and pressures of city life, enhancing the enjoyment and well-being of all. Just a little bit of housekeeping before we begin. We're using Zoom, so if you do want to say hello, please use the chat feature. Love reading through and seeing everybody joining us from Calgary, England, people from all over the United States, from Florida to California to Colorado. Some people have snow, some people have nothing. Really fun to read all those chats. If you do have a question, please use the Q&A feature. My colleagues Jose, Juan, and Ian are all on the back end answering any questions you might have. Last thing you'll see come up is a visitor poll or two that I'll launch throughout the walk today, and then I'll share the results once everybody has voted. So we're going to be taking a walk today of the Conservatory Water. It's actually our second time visiting this area. Very different though from when we first visited in July. Conservatory Water is a really interesting area located between about 72nd Street and 76th Street, nearest 5th Avenue in Central Park. This area was originally created to be a reflecting pool for a large glass conservatory that was never constructed here. And like its original intention, a lot has changed with this landscape. A lot of different artworks and activities have found their home here at the Conservatory Water. And we're going to see a few of those on our walk today. As we begin, I do actually want to launch a poll though, and I want to see what makes you think of the Conservatory Water, or when somebody mentions the Conservatory Water, what do you think of? Because there's a lot of different uses and things that can be found around this area. So I'll leave that poll up and we'll come back to that a little later. That is multiple choice too, so if you do want to vote multiple times, feel free to. But we're going to begin our walk now just outside of the park on 72nd Street and 5th Avenue. Of course, we're going to be walking into the park on a nice blue sky day like it is today here in New York City. And as we enter the park, a lot of life is going to be hustling and bustling around. As we come in the park and we head to the right, we're going to start making our way near the Conservatory Water. But first, we're going to pass by a really cool piece of artwork. As we come by, we're going to walk by a lesser, really noticed bench here. This is the Waldo Hudgens Memorial Bench, which came here in 1934. Waldo Hudgens being a prominent New Yorker and one of the Board of Commissioners when Central Park was being created. It has a lot of beautiful decoration on it. Along the backside, we can see a Latin phrase carved, which translates roughly to, "It is essential you live for another if you are truly to live for oneself." On top of that, a lot of other beautiful decoration exists, like this little granite and bronze sundial, granite and cast iron sundial we can see right here in the middle of the bench. On top of that, some more beautiful decoration and detailing, like some squirrels, and one of my favorite details, little snails that are crawling up right where your feet rest when you sit on this bench. On top of that, it has one other secret to it. This is known as a whispering bench. And what makes it a whispering bench is its shape. The shape of this is an exedra, and an exedra actually allows for the passage of sound. If one person is to go into one corner and listen, and another person goes into the other corner and whispers something, that sound will transport around this bench, making it crystal clear for the person on the other side. A fun thing to try on this secret whispering bench known as the Waldo Hudgens Memorial Bench, located right here around 72nd Street. Now, as we walk down the path, we're going to make our way down a slippery path, but we have a nice rewarding view at the bottom. We can see some people taking a much more creative way down this hill by sledding. And of course, a lot of sledding and a lot of kids' activities to be done along the Conservatory Water. We're going to see more sledding in just a moment, but as we turn around, we can start to see the snow-covered Conservatory Water, which almost just blends right into the landscape we're walking on. We'll be careful not to walk onto that as we make our way around the southern edge of it. And let's go check out another area used for sledding. Coming up to this next path, we can see why it's so special and so great for sledding. The path is completely snow covered, extending your sledding range about an extra 30 yards or so, making this one of the best hills to go sledding on. And you may notice if you walk around the park during the wintertime, hay barrels start popping up in seemingly unpeculiar spots. The reason those are placed there is for sledding. People that come a little too close to trees or lampposts at least get the nice cushion of hay rather than smacking into a hard surface. But we can see that padding existing all over in these very popular sledding areas of the park. A favorite thing of mine to look at during the winter is the ingenuity and creativity of New Yorkers, finding a way to really make use out of any experience, any season, any weather. We can also see how sleds are creatively created during this time. If you don't have a sled, no worries. That storage bin lid combined with a trash bag transforms that into a super speedy sled or toboggan to ride down a hill on. Fun to see, again, this creativity and kind of problem solving that we can see from New Yorkers and anybody that visits Central Park and wants to go sledding. As we exit this area, we'll take one last view at this Pilgrim Hill area that's surrounding the Conservatory Water, providing a beautiful sledding landscape and a beautiful picturesque scene as we walk around. As we walk over this snow-covered path, we'll wrap back around to the Conservatory Water, coming up to a not so snow-covered path and twisting and turning around these bends, which hide what's coming up next to us. I'm going to actually end our poll that we started a little bit farther back, and I'm going to share those results now. And you can see a lot of different things on there, like the whispering bench, which we saw, a few other things we're going to see in a little bit, but it looked like the most popular one was going to be the model boats. And we'll see what the model boats are in a little bit for anybody that's not too familiar with those. But we're going to come up to actually one of the characters listed on that poll right now. As we walk around this bend, we're going to come up to, any guesses? I'm sure some people at home are shouting it out. This is Hans Christian Andersen. Hans Christian Andersen being a very famous Danish storybook writer who's written countless tales like The Little Mermaid, The Little Matchbox Girl, and The Emperor's New Clothes. If we come a little bit closer, we can see how wonderful this interactive statue is, allowing for direct interaction, having two kids providing a perfect example of such right here. And we'll notice what they're looking at, that book on Hans' lap. What is inscribed inside that book is actually one of Hans' stories, The Ugly Duckling. So we can see certainly a statue that came here in 1956 that is immensely loved by children. And Hans does a wonderful job of keeping an eye over all of the kids and adults that visit the Conservatory Water. But he's not alone. He does have some company in his work. He's actually joined by one of his own characters, the Ugly Duckling, or in my opinion, the not so ugly duckling. But nice to see Hans having some company here as he sits along the Conservatory Water, which is just a snowy winter wonderland during this time. As we make our way a little bit more north of the Conservatory Water, we can bear off to the left of this path, and we'll take a look at something I always like to admire during the winter and any season, trees. This is a favorite tree of mine in this area, especially during the winter time. This is a crab myrtle. And we can actually identify a lot of the trees around this area because they have plaques giving both the common and scientific name. This being part of our 59th Street to 85th Street tree walk. Many different tree walks you can find in Central Park, all of those available on our website or accessible from a smartphone. But the reason I love this crab myrtle is because it kind of looks like bones, kind of looks really smooth, a lot of light tan colors to it. I think one of the reasons I love this crab myrtle so much is because when we see closer pieces of it, it reminds me of driftwood. And living near the Hudson River and visiting that area a lot during hikes and walks, see a lot of driftwood that has the same pattern. And I think it just kind of evokes a nostalgic feeling for me. But a favorite tree of mine that can be seen along the Conservatory Water. We do exit this area, we are going to be coming up to another very famous fixture of the Conservatory Water area. We're going to come along the backside entrance to this statue or artwork. And as we walk up to it, are there any guesses? Looking at it from the back as we're kind of blinded by the sun, just seeing the silhouette of it. This is, I'm sure, a bunch of people shouting out, the Alice in Wonderland statue. Arguably the most whimsical statue to find its way into Central Park, coming here around 1959, really serving as not only a jungle gym, but a memorial to its donators, or the philanthropist who donated, its wife, Margarita Delacourt. Looking at the characters of this statue, we can see quite a few characters from Lewis Carroll's Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, a favorite storybook of Margarita Delacourt. Here we can see Alice, of course. We can also see the White Rabbit carrying around his signature pocket watch. We can see the Cheshire Cat in the back, just kind of morphing and transforming into that log or that tree behind Alice. And then last but not least, we can also see the Mad Hatter, just to name a few characters. And what's really cool about this Mad Hatter is it's actually a caricature of the man who donated this statue to Central Park, George Delacourt. Really cool to see his character kind of living out in this Mad Hatter statue. And this piece is really amazing. This entire statue is larger than life, and it really is meant to just be explored on every angle. It was sculpted by Jose de Kreft, who did an incredible job of making all of this statue accessible, from the lesser seen details of underneath the mushroom that Alice is sitting on, to all of the little nooks and crannies of the statue, which can be explored if you're a kid or an adventurous adult. But a lot to see on the statue. My favorite detail that I want to share before we leave is going to be on the Mad Hatter's hat. It's going to be the signature 10 and 6 style hat that the Mad Hatter wears, but a great little hand carved detail that I think just make this statue go above and beyond. But one of the best statues, in my opinion, that we have here in Central Park, and that sits right along the Conservatory Water. As we start to exit Alice in Wonderland, let's go back to the star of our walk, the Conservatory Water, which again, very frozen and snow covered during this time. It looks very, very different, you can imagine, than when we saw it about 8 months or so ago, back in July 8th, actually, of 2020. So of course, a very, very green and very thawed out, we can see here, water body when Brendan took us to the Conservatory Water back on July 8th, 2020. Very, very different as we transition back into present day, seeing again a very snow-covered Conservatory Water. But as we walk along the edge, we can learn a little bit more about the Conservatory Water. Coming up, we'll get to this green-roofed building, which we visited before. This is the Curbs Boathouse, and Curbs Boathouse opened in 1954. This little green-roofed building typically has its doors open in the warmer months, and when those doors are open, you can usually see something coming out of it and going into the water. And what's coming out of it are model boats. As the most voted for poll quest, or the most voted for answer in the polls, model boats are what a lot of people think of when they think of the Conservatory Water. This activity became popular in the 1900s, especially around the Depression time, and carried through to modern day, where you can still see on warmer months people renting model boats from Curbs Boathouse, or people that have their own nice fancy model boats stored in the yacht club that bring them out for races and regattas. Of course, we don't typically see this during the winter months. We can see something here though. If we kind of go around this little fenced area, we can see there's a little walkway down to the water. And that's not to encourage people to walk on the snow or ice, but rather to allow them to when conditions permit. There's a hidden secret about Conservatory Water a lot of people don't realize. The Conservatory Water's water is lowered during the winter time, and if at least 6 inches of ice form on this water body, you can go ice skating, bringing your own ice skates and having a stop and go ice skating rink right in the middle of Central Park. I have a picture here that we can see actually from about 5 years ago, when we see people actually ice skating, or in this case, maybe playing a little pickup hockey on the Conservatory Water. It's fun to see these types of sites, which still exist today, given again the right conditions, being at least 6 inches of ice or more. But it's fun to see these types of sites in landscapes that we typically associate other things with, because a lot of landscapes have changed use over time. We used to see landscapes like these being used for curling. We also used to see lakes being used for ice skating, but we actually see the Conservatory Water, before it became used as a model boat pond, being used for wintertime activities. Flashing back to 1928, we can see this photo, which is coming from the New York City Parks 1928 Annual Parks Report. And before model boats became really popular on the Conservatory Water, winter activities were even more popular. We saw higher visitation in some of the earlier days of the park during the winter months because of all the extended activity. And here we can see speed skating occurring on this conservatory water body. Walking along the hills that people were sledding down before, people getting a nice view from up top. On the far right, we can see people parking along that road we walked in to begin our walk and coming down here for a very crowded look at this speed skating competition. But a lot of interesting history exists amongst every landscape in Central Park. So it's fun to dive a little deeper and see how things have changed. And as we flash back to present day, we have a much more spacious view at this once historically used winter landscape. Of course, a lot quieter today, but I'm not complaining because I love the serenity that this area invokes. And this does bring us back to our nice, peaceful ending for this walk. I do want to thank everybody for joining us. I hope you saw and learned a little bit about some things that you maybe knew were here, maybe didn't know were here. This is a wonderful landscape to visit though, no matter the season, and again, plenty of history packed in. We have plenty of other ways to continue learning about Central Park. We do have a few upcoming tours, like tomorrow, a longer 45-minute winter tree walk. We're going to take you through the Great Lawn, learn about trees in the winter, and how to ID them using some winter ID methods. On Tuesday, March 2nd at 3 p.m., we do have a Belvedere Beautiful View Tour, a really cool look at Belvedere Castle and the surrounding landscape. That's going to be again at 3 p.m. on March 2nd. And of course, next Wednesday, March 3rd, we're going to be continuing the weekly walk series. I'm going to be your host, leading you through the southern end, a nice little winter revisit of this area and seeing some different landscapes or different features we haven't seen before. I am going to keep this chat room open up for a few more minutes. If there are any last minute questions, please let us know and we'll do our best to answer those. But I do want to thank everybody immensely for joining us. We love to keep doing these walks and we have plenty more lined up and plenty more to share with you. Thank you so much for joining us. From all of us here at the Central Park Conservancy, stay safe, be well, and we'll see you soon.